we? Are we at 30 likes?
Yeah.
All right, listen, I was going to go in on you motherfuckers, but listen, I appreciate everyone who's tapping the like button. I also appreciate everyone who's hitting the subscribe button on these guys, because this is not easy to do, okay? This is a lot of work, and it's not fucking easy. So please, guys, if you're watching this podcast, you're not hitting the subscribe button, you should question yourself. I'm dead serious. Hit the subscribe button for these two guys. That's all I got to say.
Damn, I appreciate that.
I appreciate you. Glad I stuck around. I'm glad I'm still learning. I'm glad I'm glad I can inspire people. I'm glad I can do and be a voice and, give my opinion and help people and, and keep growing as I do. And, it's awesome. It's awesome knowing that people can benefit from me and learn and it's such a great thing.
Flexin', I be flexin' and finessing. Flexin', I be flexin' and finessing. I be flexin' and finessing. Yeah, flexin' and finessing, I be flexin' and finessing. Flexin' and finessing, I be flexin'.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sexin and Flexin Live Sunday. I got my co-host Levi from FTL Reptiles, and then we got Jeremy from Brassman Reptiles. What's up, guys? Let's go.
What's up?
Go ahead, Coles. Take it away.
All right. What's up, Jeremy? How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome, man. We're excited to have you.
Hell yeah.
That was a great Instagram live you did the other day. You want to touch a little bit on that for the viewers that haven't seen it yet?
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. I was just talking with my roommate Lenny, who was bending the show down in South Carolina, and he was like, "Hey, man, there were a lot of people that were talking about you at the show because they saw your live stream. They saw that you were pretty upset." So basically, I did a live stream addressing the new regulation change in Georgia that essentially, as it stands now, by this time next year, people will not be able to breed and sell Burmese pythons, Argentine black and white tegus, Nile monitors, I think it's African helmeted turtles and Chinese softshell turtles in the state of Georgia. And the reasoning is pretty varied per species, but of course there's Florida did it, so we should do it too. I also talked about the Southeast Association of Fisheries and Wildlife Agencies, which is headed by Eric Sutton, who is one of the FWC commissioners down in Florida, and it's basically a commission of commissioners for fish and wildlife agencies all across the United States. So we're talking about continuity between these fish and wildlife organizations, which means when one state passes a ban on something, they're talking to their friends a couple states over saying, hey, you might want to look into doing this too. And it's frustrating. And it was super frustrating to know the numbers for people down in Georgia that actually got involved versus those that didn't. It was pretty pitiful in my opinion. And there's a couple phone calls that I plan on having this week with some folks to just kind of be like, hey, where were you? I think you provided minimal effort, for your friends down in your state, and that's kind of frustrating. So on the plus side, after that lengthy yell fest from me, I jumped on a call with some of the keepers down in Georgia that were involved, and then we got some reestablished communication going on with Phil as far as what the next steps need to be and what they can bring to the table to Georgia DNR before things go into place. So it's far from over because there's still a year of playtime before it would actually go into effect. So we still got some things on the ground, but it was definitely frustrating for sure.
No, I agree. And wasn't one of the Carolinas similar to that when it came down to banning the tegus, right? Where it was a huge deal online, but nobody showed up.
Yeah, that was a South Carolina thing. North Carolina, we did a big push in North Carolina. We had a few hundred people show up for our meeting, which, we put a lot of effort into making sure people were there. But the reality is you don't need a lot of effort. What you need are a lot of voices. So all it takes is enough people putting on their Instagram story like, "Hey, keepers in North Carolina need our help. Click this link to send an email, and help out your fellow keepers." Like, it's really as simple as click, 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 done. So in South Carolina, when nobody shows up, Georgia, when hardly anybody shows up, it's frustrating because we're not helping ourselves, and to me, that's a problem because we're facing these legislative changes at a faster rate now than we have been ever before. I've been involved in working with USARC in some capacity for a little more than 10 years now. So I've seen it. I've seen it happen. I've testified at probably 10 or more different state hearings in New England and beyond. Like, this stuff is real. This stuff is real. So I don't know. That's what we're up against. What is it? Somebody saying my mic needs help. Is that what's happening? Is my audio not great for you guys?
It sounds like you're a little staticky.
Oh, let's see.
I had
Hang
these
on.
headphones on, so it's hard for me to tell.
Let's see.
I apologize to everybody in advance. My voice is still shot from the concert on Thursday.
Okay, let's see. Is that better? Does that sound clearer?
It's clear, but you're coming in more quiet.
Oh man, so I have to yell? I like yelling.
I don't know. Do you have it on speaker or what do you have it on headset?
Yeah, I had it on my headset. So I just put it to go through my phone now. So hopefully that helps.
Chris, you should be able to bring his audio up.
I don't know. I could try. Let me see. Right now?
Hey.
Go ahead and talk, Jeremy.
Yo, hopefully this works. Let's see. Hopefully it works.
I raised it, but it's still low.
Yeah, you're still coming in super quiet. It's almost like a church mouse.
Interesting. Okay. Was it better with the other one?
Yeah, we could deal with the static.
Put it back.
Okay. How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, that's way better. Oh, the static clear too. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool. So there we go.
Let me go back and fix it again. All right.
So, what can we do to assist you, USARC, and everybody in Georgia from here moving forward? Continue to make noise?
Yes, I mean, right now, as far as Georgia's concerned, there's not much we can do. So right now, Phil is in the middle of having conversations with a handful of keepers that are the real stakeholders and shareholders in the state. So right now, it's up to them to get a plan going. And then once we know what that plan is, I think then we need to make some noise and get everybody kind of in gear to reach out to Georgia DNR and say, you need to go along with this because this is best case, So I think that's what we need to do as far as that's concerned. As far as everything else for USARC, I mean, guys, I'm amazed at the number of people that reach out to me and they're like, I don't know what's going on. Can you fill me in? And it's like, all you need to do is follow USARC. Follow USARC social media, check out the website, all of that stuff. It's not hard. Like, it's really not hard. I had people telling me that USARC did not provide deadlines for public comment, and they didn't say when the meeting was going to happen for Georgia. And I was like, that's interesting because on the Instagram post, it's the first thing that was on the Instagram post. It was halfway down on the Facebook post. It was halfway down on the alert on the website. So I rebutted with a screenshot and said, actually, the fact is you didn't read. That's the fact. And, so the biggest thing, honestly, is to just raise the awareness for USR. Get the people to realize, like, hey, we need to be aware of what's being said by this organization. And the more time we take to understand what they're telling us, the easier it becomes for us to do our job. It's literally like USARC is like laying out our clothes for us for the next day. All we got to do is put them on. If we can't be bothered to do that, then go walk out naked and be dumb. That's your own problem. At the end of the day, that's your own problem.
Absolutely.
Well, you want to try that?
Yeah, let's try that.
Hey, Jeremy, you're going to have to reset your phone.
Oh, really? Is it still
Yeah, because you're still low. We'll wait for you to come back.
Okay. All right, cool.
Oh, so, sorry, guys.
Quick intermission.
Technical difficulties.
It happens. So
yeah.
Let's shout out everybody in the comments real quick. Eden plugging up.
Scan, Bosa. What else we got in here?
Ron's in here. RKA Reptile. Shout out Ronnie and Ashley.
Zach Brown.
Yo, real quick, while we're on the subject, shout out Ronnie and everybody in Florida that's in this fight, man. Y'all are leading the way here. Y'all are setting an example for all these other states, and they need to follow suit.
Especially Georgia, bro. Georgia didn't follow for nothing, bro. I don't know what they're doing. I hate to talk stuff, but I mean, I'm not talking stuff about the ones that actually try to do something, just the ones that didn't do something.
Welcome back. Now we can't hear you at all.
Yeah, now we can't hear you at all. Man, I don't even know what's going on.
Hi.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. All right. Is that better?
There we go.
All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Better.
Okay. That's really weird. I don't understand why that's happening.
Yeah, that is odd. I don't even know. Freaking StreamYard, man.
Yeah, I know. That's all I'm going to say. StreamYard right now. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, StreamYard, you don't get your stuff together, we're going to drop you.
Right. Is the audio still soft from me?
Hold on. Yeah, you're still coming in. There's a little bit of static, and it's still really quiet. I don't understand.
Really weird.
Bro, I tried messing with this mic. I don't know.
Okay, hang on. Give me 1 sec. Let me see if let me try to put like actual wired headphones in. See if that changes anything.
Okay.
I didn't hear him.
He said he's going to put in wired headphones.
Oh, okay. That might work. Hopefully that works.
How is my audio coming in? This is my first time using this mic.
Bro, you're perfect, bro. You're good. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, wants to, but it's okay.
This is gonna get good. So.
Yeah. We just warming up. Little technical difficulties. Jeremy about to go in.
We didn't even let Jeremy introduce himself. What he works with, stuff like that.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten to that yet.
I know.
Okay, let's see. Is this better?
That is amazing. There we go.
Yeah. Okay, Jesus. Now I'm strapped to my phone and I'm gonna get really irritated. But okay.
It'd be like that, man. It'd be like that.
Shit. Oh gosh. Okay. All right. Where were we?
All right. Man, we can move on a little bit here. We were just shouting out everybody in Florida and the ones that are in this fight right now and helping out down there. And, they're really setting the example, leading the way here. That what they're trying to do is not going to go over well, and even if they succeed, it's going to be hell for them.
Yeah. Florida is a unique case for sure.
Do you got any new updates about Florida? Anything that nobody knows about yet? Anything upcoming?
So there is an upcoming tag meeting. I think it's Tuesday and Wednesday in Ocala, Florida, I think. Where they're going to be discussing more of what's been going on in the previous tag hearings. So I don't know 100% what's on the docket for that. I know Daniel Parker from USARK Florida was on a live stream earlier today giving a little bit of info on that. So, but USARK Florida did post something about that tag meeting and what should be discussed there. So you just check out USARK Florida's Instagram. They posted all the info for what's going on for that next meeting. So
awesome. So, we kind of jumped right over it, as Chris pointed out. Do you want to introduce yourself, what you do, what you work with?
Yeah. So I'm Jeremy. Welcome to my shit show. No, no. So I operate Brassman Reptiles. I'm also the co-host of the Reptile Talk podcast. I work with about 16 or 17 different species of snakes here. I've been keeping for over 20 years. I've worked with 6 dozen species of reptiles and amphibians and bred nearly that many as well. Currently I work with ball pythons, jungle carpets, Centralian carpets, retics, berms, bloods, Borneo shorttails, cow kings, Goinai kings, Mex kings, corn snakes, Maclots pythons, Cape gopher snakes, North Mexican pine snakes, Amazon tree boas, and I think that's about it. I'm sure I'm missing a few.
All right, man. So you basically just listed every freaking snake that everybody's worked with. And, man, what a dream collection to have there. That's incredible.
It's I have a problem. I tell people I just like too many animals, so I can't just work with one species. It's always been a problem, even when I lived with my folks. I think at my peak, I probably had about 50 different species in one room. A lot of that was amphibians. A lot of it was amphibians at that time. But yeah, I was a big colubrid nut. So I would have like a pair of this, a pair of that, a trio of this, a pair of this, a little group of these and whatever. Like, I just like too much shit, man.
Fair enough. I think all colubrid keepers can relate to that to an extent. I'm a colubrid nut myself, so it's like I've got multiple species of colubrids sitting around in the collection.
Yeah, it's really easy, man. It's really easy to get to that point where you're like, shit, there's a lot of snakes, and wow, there's a lot of species.
It feels like a snowball effect, man. One just leads to another. My addiction is like, I don't know if you're a member of it, but the Colubrids and Venomous page on Facebook, the national one. Every time I go scrolling through there, I'm like, oh, you got to learn about that one. Oh, I need that one. Oh, you got to figure out what that is.
100%.
I saw elephant trunk snakes come up again today. Not on that page, but a different one. I was like, oh, man, there goes another one. Not a colubrid, but
still
one of those off-the-wall species. They're so freaking cool.
Yeah.
Have you worked with them yet?
I've not worked with them personally. I've worked with them in other people's collections, but I've never owned one, so my experience with them is pretty limited. But I do know that they can be super, super sensitive to water quality. So if your water quality is not on point, you're going to have a lot of problems with them.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I've still got a bunch of research to do on them, but they look so weird, man. It gets me the way they look.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So you said Borneo shorttail.
Mm-hmm.
That's one I should take back that not a lot of people have worked with, but is probably one of the most desired animals to work with.
Yeah.
What has that been like for
you? So it's funny. So this year was actually the first year that I've ever bred them. I've kept them for many years. I bred blood pythons in the past, but and they're pretty similar to bloods. You know, they are a cousin essentially. And man, they're really unique. I think people people like them because they're not known to be as flighty as Bloods can be. But people also dislike them because their genetics are not standard at all. So there's very few genetic traits in Borneos that translate over like normal Mendelian genetics, like we know in ball pythons and corns and whatever. A lot of it's lineage based. So like my clutch this year was from a genetic stripe posset ocelot to a super stripe posset ocelot, and I popped out like G stripe granites because the ocelot lineage has granite stuff in it.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Wow.
you got to know like what's going on. There's a lot of different polygenic things that float around. So for most people who understand genetics, anything outside the realm of the norm, they don't understand, and they want to be able to put it in a box, and you can't. So most people are like, well, fuck that. You know, I don't want to deal with that whatsoever. I like it. You know, I like messing with stuff that doesn't make sense. So for me, it's been really cool. And I've also got some of the T positive albino stuff. I have the sunsets and the mochas here. And I've been enjoying watching those grow up. I have a lot of that stuff is available for sale, but I've got a couple that I've kind of not posted for a reason because I've been enjoying watching them kind of grow up a little bit. So it's a little selfish, but
I mean, everybody does it, so.
yeah, you know, I mean, you are your own first customer, right? So
Exactly.
I mean, I got a clutch right now in the incubator, so I know I'm gonna probably keep one of them.
yeah, it's hard not to, man. You see one or two that like knock your socks off, you know. Like I got to a point where I had like a pair of holdbacks from this clutch that's just really nice, clean super stripes. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to raise these up. These will be great. And I was like looking through what I'm raising up right now. And I was like, man, I actually really don't need to hold any of these back. That would just be a bad choice on my part as far as space and everything goes. But so I posted the female first. And I was like, I'm just going to put a stupid price on her because I really would like to raise her up. But, you know, if somebody wants to pay me the ridiculous number, then fine. And of course, somebody did. So like, it's always how it goes, man. It's always how it goes. But no, she went to somebody that really enjoys Borneo. So I'm glad that she went somewhere that she's getting the attention and love that, you know, she deserves. And it doesn't have to come from me, and she doesn't have to take up my rack space anymore. So
Awesome.
Hell yeah. That's awesome.
heck
So-
yeah.
Out of all the species you listed, I don't know if this is going to be an easy question for you or difficult.
What's the favorite?
What's the favorite?
Dude, it's so hard, man. It's so hard. Honestly, so carpet pythons really like run the bulk of my collection. I've probably got about 40 carpet pythons here. And if you asked me 2 years ago what my favorite was, it would be carpet pythons, hands down. As of late, it's really become the Amazon tree boas, which a lot of people don't expect because they're not usually a favorite of anybody. But there's something about, so I'll preface by saying I kept and bred Amazons when I was probably like 14. And they're not difficult to breed. They're a fun species, but they get a bad rap. However, since then, there's been a lot of people that have been breeding them and really like working to understand them both genetically and as a species, you know, what makes them tick, what gets them, you know, to lose their minds and so on and so on. I've just enjoyed really diving in more to that species. So I have 14 of them, 14 or 15 of them.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. And, they're all a little bit different. I have some that are absolutely wonderful. I can take out and handle like any other snake. And I have two that want me dead every single time I open up the cage. And then everything else is like a mix in between. So, yeah, so I'm really liking them. And then the color variations between them, similar to Borneos, there's a lot of lineage-based stuff that goes into their genetics. So there's only a couple of traits that carry over like true genetics. But a lot of it is lineage based, so I like that because it means you need to pay more attention to them. The other thing I like, which is kind of a double-edged sword, because when it comes to pricing them, you can find imported Amazon tree boas for under $100. And they're a very easy animal to establish as long as their parameters are met correctly, which is great. It's great because it makes them easy to establish for captive populations. The tricky part sales-wise becomes, a captive bred animal is going to start at a couple $100, so you're dealing with the people that are, importing them, selling them for pennies on the dollar kind of deal. So that's when really understanding the species comes into play. And you can say like, hey, look, yeah, you can go buy that animal that, if you want as a pet, cool. But this, you don't have to worry about potential parasite loads. You don't have to worry about any of that. This is a captive bred animal. It's already well started. It's whatever. And it's beautiful. And ironically enough, Amazon tree boas were my best seller for 2022.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I have noticed the uptick in popularity of them over the last, I'd say, like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're starting to take off big time.
Yeah. And I mean, dude, how you see a really nice smoking blood red Amazon tree boa that's just like got red eyes and everything, and that thing's looking at you like it wants to kill you. You're looking back at it like, that's a cool fucking snake, man.
Hell yeah.
What's really ironic about you bringing up Amazon tree boas, I was just at one of our local shops looking at one. I think I'm going to go back for it tomorrow. I had already, triggered the thought process. I worked with one and it came in, it was a wild caught species and it died in my care. It was tick infested, had a lot of things wrong with it. When I got it, it really wasn't like the best sale. That shop has like made a U-turn and turned things around and now is taking better care of the animals. But
that's always nice.
It left a bad taste in my mouth. I felt like, I could have done better, question myself. And now that I'm years down the road from that original purchase, I was like, it is what it is. It happens a while. Watching you, MJ, some of the bigger names in the hobby explain it better. I'm going to go back for it. Especially
and
after what you have to say.
Yeah, man. And they're incredibly hardy. So like right now I've got everything's in all of my bigger animals are in black box cages. They're 18-inch cubes. They've got radiant heat panel and LED light. And they do great in those. I've posted my setups of them a bunch of times, but basically it's just mulch and sphagnum moss for bedding. They get a grapevine, some cork bark, and then they get I take like a corrugated plastic tube that I zip tie to the side of the cage. So they have an elevated hide, and they can utilize all that space. They do great. I've also done a similar setup in FB80 drawers in rack systems, which are these drawers here. They're essentially the same size as a CB70 drawer that you would use for a ball python, but they're 9 inches tall. So you can provide a little bit of an elevated hide space for them. And they did great in those. I had no problems with them in those. They are the most terrestrial of the Corallus species, next to maybe like annulateds. But when I got them into cages, I was like, yeah, man, these just need to be in cages. There's just something about seeing them in a cage. They can, if you're going to have a mass of them, bigger rack enclosures work really well. Years ago, I don't know if they still make them, but I think it was Animal Plastics used to make an arboreal snake rack that was more designed for green trees and stuff, but they use 55 quart tubs. So it's like 28 by 15 by 16. And I know people that kept them in those and they did really well in those, but yeah, I just like them in cages. They just look really cool in cages.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it was Animal Plastics. That's right. Yeah, I had to look that up real quick because I remember seeing something like that. I don't know if they make them anymore, but yeah, it was Animal Plastics.
Yeah, those, dude, I used to stare like, oh my God, if Allie and the team over there at Animal Plastics knew how much time I spent on their website just like staring at cages and rack systems, thinking about what can I put in that? Like it was like a problem, man. Meanwhile, my parents are like crying at the amount of money that I'm not putting in a savings account and I'm spending on reptiles.
Oh man. Yeah, that's that's the terrifying part about this is how much money goes into it.
Yes. Absolutely.
All right, Jeremy, there's somebody in the comments with an interesting question. I'm going to flip it up a little bit, and I'm not going to get snake specific. What's your opinion or take on hybrids?
I don't mind hybrids. I can't say I'm necessarily pro hybrid, just because there are various issues that can happen with that first generation. And a lot of hybrids end up being sterile. So if it's to make a cool looking animal, cool. The problem I have with hybrids mostly falls onto colubrid hybrids, and it's when you start working with snakes that look eerily similar, and the species percentage gets muddied up and becomes unclear, and then it just makes its way into the market as a pure this or whatever, and that's not the case. So then you taint that gene pool. So that's when I have a problem with it. So, I know sometimes people get really annoyed with like, oh, well, it's 75% corn snake and 15.6% this and 12% this and 7% that. And I'm like, hey, man, I don't like reading all of that either, but at least they know. At least they know. So I can respect that they've paid attention, But at that point, why? Just why?
Doesn't that sound familiar? Just like Levi. Yeah. Sorry, my take on it. Not that it matters at this point, but I'm 100% anti-hybrid. I don't see a need for it. I don't see it's cool, make a badass snake or whatever, but outside of that, that's the only pro I can see to it. And we can keep them pure to make even more badass snakes. Just my opinion outside looking in, I see more cons and shit that can go wrong with making hybrids, and it ends up in an irresponsible keeper's hands, and it's all downhill from there. But it's good to know. The question was, I guess, chondros to carpets has been like one of the hotter hybrids. I've even seen it on freaking Instagram at this point.
Yeah. Carpondros. I think carpondros are cool. I like the jag pondros, so getting the jag gene into the mix, I really do like those. It gets kind of tricky. You start dealing with stuff like that. You've got an animal that, carpet pythons are semi-arboreal, whatever, but then you've got a green tree that's basically 100% arboreal. You really have to spend time with that animal to see where it's going to fall on that side. So I think it adds a bit more of intensity for the keeper to be aware of what's going on with that particular animal. It's not just a one size fits all kind of methodology with that stuff. So I think they're cool, but I think they require a little bit more attention to detail to be really successful with them.
Awesome. Okay. I respect that. A lot. I didn't even think about that. Like, not that I would ever work the project, but that is true. All right. So as a huge fan of carpets, I have to ask, what is your favorite project you've done so far as the carpets go? And where, I guess it's a double question. So what is your favorite project you've done so far? And what is your most anticipated project coming up? Whether it be this year or in 10 years.
So that's a really good one. So I have one on each side. So over the years, I've worked with the 4 species. Now I really only work with jungles and brettles. I have one pair of pure coastals that are just kind of like my little project thing that I just enjoy. But for the jungles, the coolest thing I ever produced were ocelot jags. So anybody that really follows my stuff knows the ocelot jungle project has been like the top of the pyramid for me for many, many years. And I think the first ocelot jags that I ever produced were probably the ones where I like lost my mind because I was so geeked about that project. Mike Curtin over at Scattershot Exotics used to tease me with really amazing looking ocelot jags when I was a kid, when they were like $3,500, $4,000, and I'm like, I can't afford that whatsoever. So now fast forward, and I actually have one of the original non-jag ocelots from Mike. I'll be breeding her to a zebra this coming year, so I'm excited to plug that into the zebra project. And then Brettles pythons, produced some Stonewash this year. I really like the Stonewash stuff, but I'm most excited. I have a pair of double het Stonewashed genetic stripes. So I'm very, very happy and excited for that. The female's right on the cusp of being able to breed, so I might just give her one more year just to be safe. A few of them have already been made, but it's still really new. And then once I land a double visual, I have some 100% pure hypo blood Brettles pythons as well that are like second generation hypo from the original German stuff. So they're going to get plugged into those. So there's a lot of stuff coming for Brettles pythons too.
Oh yeah,
man, you got me excited.
Yeah, yeah, man. I've spent a lot of time talking with and spending money with Nick Mutton over the years.
Oh, I bet you're his number one customer at this point.
Yeah.
That's awesome, though.
I mean,
oh man,
Jeremy also travels a lot. He
I
plays
do.
music.
Yeah. Yeah, I travel a lot. Matter of fact, I leave tomorrow morning to go to Atlanta. I've only been home for 2 days. I was on tour for the last 2 weeks. I've been home for the last 2 days. And I leave tomorrow morning to go down to Atlanta. I'm working on an album in Atlanta. So luckily I'll only be down there for like 2 or 3 days so I can come back and rest. And then I leave the following Monday to go to New Hampshire. So yeah, I'm on the road a lot right now.
Hey, so you said album. Are you in a band? Do you make your own music?
Yeah, so I primarily work a lot of freelance stuff right now, so I'm just like a hired gun. I would love to tell you who I'm working with right now, but I'm under contract, so I can't. But I'm working on my third album right now as a band leader. So I've got 3 of my own albums out. But I've recorded on probably about 30 different albums in the last 7 years. From some people, some finalists from The Voice, some prodigy musicians overseas. I worked with a gospel legend out of Connecticut. I've worked on his last 5 albums, or 4 albums, excuse me. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of music happening, and maybe I'll let you guys in on what's going on, maybe off camera.
All right. Okay.
I'll take it.
Yeah,
that's awesome, man. What kind of music? Like, do you have a specific genre that you work with solo? I didn't know anything about this, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so I do a lot of stuff in the R&B and pop field. So the single that I just released back in August called Just Feels Right. It's kind of like a pop funk tune, which is a little bit different from my first 2 records. My first 2 records were certainly more along the lines of like instrumental jazz kind of stuff, like setting a toe into the R&B field, but not really. This album is going to be more into the pop funk field, making it a little more commercial and usable, I guess, in multiple contexts outside of like, hey, go look at my music because I want to be cool. But yes, I mean, over the years I've played with so many different kinds of bands. Like I said, I do work in the gospel field. I do a lot of pop and R&B stuff. I've done the straight ahead jazz stuff. I've played classical. I had subbed for 6 months with a salsa band, which was like the most horrific time of my life because those guys are on like a whole other level of understanding music. But yes, I mean, I've done a lot. I've been really lucky over the years to be able to play a lot of great music with a lot of great people. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Damn, bro. How do you find the time to do all of this? Honestly, like,
I'm still looking for it. I'm still looking for the time. I wish I knew where the time could come from to make life a lot easier. No, honestly, man, it really comes down to being able to schedule my time and block my time. Before I worked at Nerd, I was teaching music and gigging full time. And I still had a collection of maybe like 50 or 60 animals, but I used to have my days, booked down to the 10-minute mark, for everything from phone calls to meetings to, like if the chunk was longer than 10 minutes, it was because it was like a really important meeting, a rehearsal, or a gig. That was really it. And then when I started working at Nerd, that settled down a little bit because Nerd was taking up Nerd was paying the bills, so I had a little bit more flexibility in my time, but I was still gigging. There were many times where I had to hit up Kevin like the day before because I would get a last minute call to go do a week-long tour run in California. So I would go and do that. Now, in North Carolina, I'm 100% self-employed. So my schedule is super flexible, which is amazing, and I'm very grateful, but it also gets really, really hectic. So I'm thankful that I live with a friend of mine that I've known for a long time who's also a reptile guy. So if I go away for a while, he can take care of stuff. And if I'm gone for a really long time, I can call Rob. Rob lives a couple hours away from me and just be like, hey, man, can you just go through and make sure I've got everything, under control? So when I get back, I'm not like losing my freaking mind,
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. I was going to ask about that. Who takes care of the animals while you're out on tour? So
yeah. My roommate Lenny, who I've known for probably 12 or 13 years now. He's got probably 150 of his own snakes, so it's just like, hey man, can you just make sure like the babies have water? Like all the big water bowls are fine. I'm only gone for 3 days, but check the babies, kind of deal. Like no big deal there.
Awesome. All right, man. So we didn't get a lot of time backstage. Are you good with controversial questions?
Let's go. Where are we at?
You used to work with Nerd, man. You used to work with Nerd. What's your take on what's going on with them?
So I'll preface by this. Kevin has been and will always be a friend of mine from the very beginning. I've known Kevin since I was 13.
Oh shit. Okay.
I've known Kevin a really long time. It's one of the reasons why I posted on my Instagram, Kevin, myself, and Pete Call, we're all sitting down having a conversation, and Kevin was talking about his experience going down to Pete's place when he was young and like kind of geeking out and like fanboying about everything that Pete had, like the first pied ball pythons, the first albino boas, all this stuff. And I'm, when they finished, I'm like, Kev, like that was me with you, man. Like I was 13 coming here, like looking at the first infernos, like losing my mind, man. I'm like, I have a pastel and you have this crazy orange thing, so like, Kev's always been a friend of mine, and I still talk to Kevin often. I still go to visit him pretty frequently. I don't necessarily agree with certain things that get posted on social media. That's just kind of where it's at. I think a lot of people buy into the social media perception without knowing what's actually happening in the walls of that building, because anybody who says that Kevin is just doing what he's doing for money or clout or recognition doesn't know Kevin. And that's just a fact. I've sat on the phone with this man for hours as he's like trying to process the retaliation of people that think he's a clout chaser, when in his mind, they're missing the bigger picture that he's trying to draw for people. And raising awareness for people that aren't doing things the way they need to be doing them. And the reality is a lot of the people that are glorified today really don't deserve it. And I will say that being at Nerd in the position that I held, I was privy to a lot of conversations about a lot of people. And yeah, let's just say the controversy should be a lot more than Nerd and what Nerd is doing.
Oh, for sure. I don't know if you've seen some of our other pods, but I've got a pretty big fucking mouth on me, so it's not.
Yeah, he likes to do the controversy. That's what he likes to do.
You can go back and look at it. I don't speak out against Kevin. I have a lot of respect for Kevin and what he's done, and I mean the guy's always going to be a legend in my mind. My beef is with Donnie. It's definitely not with Kevin. Like I have no. I'm going to have my opinions and I'm going to say, ask questions or whatever, but like, it's never going to be in like a disrespectful manner towards Kevin, to put it that way. Mm-hmm. I've got nothing negative to say about the man. The shit that he's done for us, like being most of our community being new keepers coming into the game, as far as Kevin's status goes, like their respect is due where respect is due, period. Like you just don't, certain people, you just you can question respectfully, do what you need to do respectfully, but as far as like shit talking and talking down goes, like Kevin's not one of them. Him and Barczyk are of the same status to me.
Mm-hmm.
As far as goes.
So when it comes to Donnie also gets a lot of unnecessary hate, in my opinion. Okay. And I'll say this for a few different reasons, right? So most people don't know that Donnie's been at Nerd for a very long time, like very long. He worked in a lot of different positions there. When I started as the manager there, he was taking care of monitors. And he had spoken to me and was like, man, like I really want to be able to help Kevin with social media. Like I have a background in video editing and blah, blah, blah. And I think I could help like boost the social media presence. Like it's a big thing that the business is lacking. And I was like, actually, you're right. It was at that time something that Nerd was lacking 3.5 years ago. So I talked with Kev and I was like, hey man, Donnie says he's got this background in video editing. I've seen some of his stuff. I think we should give him a shot. Let's let him do a video. and he did very well, especially compared to, a video of Kevin's hand with a ball python in it being like, look, it's cool. It's wonderful. And then you don't know what the heck is going on. And that morphed into, so here's the thing. So Donnie, and a lot of people think that Donnie doesn't keep reptiles or have reptiles or whatever. He doesn't own reptiles personally, but his girlfriend who he lives with has 2 reptile rooms in his house. So he's surrounded by reptiles all the time. He's learned a lot over the years that I've known him about stuff. But he's very large on social media, on like what's trending on social media, what's going on in social media. So he's not necessarily looking to always make reptile content. He's looking to, fish for the views, fish for the followers. But like when he does those videos where he's like coming out at people, that creates all that tension and drama and whatever. When I tell you the amount of time he spends researching and deep diving, I'm talking like he will tell me he's going to do a video and then I won't hear from him for weeks. And then all of a sudden he's like, look at all of this information that I have found that links this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And all these things that we thought that were totally separate are actually incredibly connected. But then he's got to make that fit in 15 minutes or less. So yeah, so it goes a lot deeper than just like, oh, he's just some tool that's trying to fucking get clout. No, man, he's got some shit on a lot of folks.
Damn.
That,
all right.
So I would just challenge, like, it's because I talk to a lot of people that don't like Donnie or have their opinions on Donnie, and I love Donnie to death. I agree. I've had some disagreements with him on certain things, and I think certain things shouldn't get posted. But at the end of the day, it's Kevin's call. Kevin does get made aware of stuff. So it is what it is. I especially now, I haven't worked there in a little over a year now, so my say doesn't really matter anymore. It doesn't really count. So I can certainly call Kevin and be like, hey man, I don't think that was a good video. Or I can call Donnie and say, hey man, I don't think that was the best move. But at the end of the day, they're going to do what they're going to do. Right. So, but I think more people need to understand that he's not just some random wannabe that's just putting videos together for the sake of it. He's probably doing more research on stuff than most people would even care to do. I mean, think about this, right? The spider ball controversy. Let's look at that, right? You're talking about IHS. Here's the timeline, right? Most people don't even recognize this timeline. So International Herpetological Symposium in Europe says, okay, at these shows, you can no longer sell spider ball or spider ball combos. That's a problem. We don't want to deal with them anymore. They've got neurological problems. We don't care what the root of it is. We just don't want it around anymore. Okay. Barczyk makes a video talking about the IHS decision and saying that it's a slippery slope. Because let's be real, if you breed ball pythons, then you know basically everything in the spider complex has the potential for a wobble. Hidden Woma, Woma, Champagne. You've got super cinnamons and super black pastels with the duck bills. You've got a lot of things, spot nose and super spot nose, right? All these things, but we focus on spider. So Brian makes his video saying that this is a bad idea because it's a slippery slope. Then Go Herping makes a video because Barchek made a video that got really popular. So Go Herping makes a video saying Barchek is a jerk and that spider is bad. So you've got Barchek, whose audience is primarily newer keepers, maybe have been keeping for a couple of years. They're still kind of like, they still have recently been bit by the bug. So they're still trying to learn and absorb as much as possible. Then you've got Go Herping, who's the kid that's pandering to all of the kids and the next generation of social media people. So now that video blows up. Now Kevin gets called in and Kevin's like, well, I'm the guy that brought this freaking thing in. So let's talk. He makes a video talking about spider, talking about everything that's going on with spider, talking about how that in comparison to things like jaguar carpet pythons, the spider wobble is not really that big of a deal. And this argument has been going on for decades. This is not new, right? But now it's gotten a fresh fire started because of this popularity, right? Then Kevin gets annihilated for attacking this kid. What sense does that make? When Kevin reached out to him and was like, hey man, you don't really understand everything. Let's talk. And this kid like trolls Kevin. And this kid's also basically like, I'm just doing this for the views. You think I care? Like, this is how I make money. He's a 16-year-old, or however the heck old he is now, but whatever he was then, making a shit ton of money off YouTube. You think he cares? He's got one bumblebee at the time. It just doesn't matter to him. He's like, I'm going to make $15,000 off this one video. Like, go me. Yeah. So, but so that video, so the reason I'm saying all that is that video that like obliterated everything that we do with the spider ball python literally had like zero research done. And it flipped the world upside down on spider ball pythons. And it didn't matter how much effort and research went into it to make it, right? So now here you've got Donnie making videos, calling people out or talking about this, that, or the other thing. But he's doing weeks of research and can back everything up and show it piece by piece. But he's got to cram it into 15 minutes or less so that it makes sense. You're not going to get everything, and he's got to make it grab your attention as fast as possible. So yeah, he's going to get some hate and some frustration for it, but what he's got on the back end, man, I don't think people understand the amount of time he puts into making some of those videos that get him all that shit.
Okay. Well, it's good to hear it from, somebody from the inside too, to get more of a broader look at it. Like, it's nice that you expose that spider ball python video. I mean, I don't like Go Herping, so I mean, I think Kevin's ultimately won the war. He won the battle, but Kevin won the war on that one because that kid's something else.
But we were talking about that the other day.
Yeah, I mean, everybody on the panel and everybody in the comments, nobody likes that kid.
Yeah.
Hypocrite. Yeah. Anyways, we're not. This isn't a roast session.
Yeah. Right.
He's not even worth the freaking time. But no, it is good to hear something. That was one of the biggest things I was excited for, is to hear your take on Donnie, your take on Kevin, somebody coming from the inside of that operation, because you don't get to hear a lot from a lot of people in there. It's all talk from the outside. It's all speculation at the end of the day. Nobody can really prove anything unless you've been inside of Nerd and you've worked with Kevin, you've worked with Donnie. It's all just speculation and opinion. So it's nice to hear
100%. 100%. And listen, I'll say, Kevin and I probably don't agree on everything, and one of the things that I told him going in when I took the job was, like, I'm not, this business needs to run. I'm not here to be a yes man, but you're obviously good at your job. You've built this business, but you're also the person that brought me up in reptiles. I lived 2 hours away from Nerd as a kid. I went there as much as I could. So I'm like, if you can't trust your own intuition, then what can you trust? So being able to go in that instance and say, like, I've got a decade of knowing Kevin behind me gave me a little bit more leeway and flexibility. And I say that to say this because I know that there have been some other previous Nerd employees that have maybe jumped on certain podcasts and tried to say their shit. And, the reality is they're not there anymore. But, and not because they left on their own accord. I left on my own accord, but I still have a wonderful relationship with Kevin, so I'm coming from a different place. I'm not coming from a begrudged employee mind space. I'm coming from a like, no, man, like I love Kevin to death. He could call me right now and be like, dude, I need you to come up tomorrow. I'm in some shit, and I would drop everything and go help him out.
Man, that's respect, awesome. Man.
Yeah, that's mad respect. That's awesome. It's good to hear somebody, again, coming from inside Nerd and not having a negative opinion about Kevin or a negative opinion about Donnie and some of the stuff that's come out of there. And I mean, it's all super controversial at the end of the day with what's going on. So I'm glad you were willing to speak on it and touch on it. Man. I mean, I'll back off Donnie, and talking shit. Like that. It is refreshing hearing somebody, speak the truth.
Yeah, man. And I think it's important that people realize too, like the, YouTube controversy aside, right? Just talking about, you look at the videos that come out of Nerd, we'll say pre-controversy calling people out stuff. Then you look at, like the old bar check videos, the snake bites videos and stuff like that. And then the occasional Jay Brewer video. You're talking about 3 of the top reptile breeders, that were essentially the ones who pioneered the empire of reptiles, right? The business empire of reptiles. The general public has no idea what that entails, right? So you're getting a tiny glimpse into a world of chaos, and I think that it's important to mention that because, like, 2011, I went to Barczyk's place when he still had his big BHB breeding facility, 30,000 square feet, 15,000 square feet, 30,000 snakes. And I was like, oh my God, like we were watching Snake Bites TV, like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like, look at that cool aisle of ball pythons. It's like, yeah, times that by 20. And that's like the python room, just the python room. Then you look at one aisle of colubrids and you're like, that's one of 7 of back-to-back colubrids, like, holy crap. So we're getting a rare inside glimpse onto the large breeding scale of reptiles and what that takes. Some of it, like I have 350 snakes. That's a pretty large collection for a single person to take care of, but I can also manage it in essentially a 25 by 15 room, so I'm not really losing a whole lot of sleep over it, but most people don't know what that's like. And it's also important to realize that we're getting a glimpse into a world that's often very secretive. If you think about those 3 breeders in particular, now think about every other breeder that is essentially large scale. You've got Royal Constrictor Designs. You've got, importers like Underground Reptiles and stuff like that. You don't really see anything coming from those guys outside of what they want you to see, which more oftentimes than not is a very tight camera angle on a very specific thing. And that's it. Why? Because the more they show off, the more scrutiny they're opening themselves up to. So then you've got Brian and Kevin and Jay that have taken the initiative to show more and open themselves up to so much more scrutiny just off a 10-minute video.
Yeah.
There's a reason why so many of those guys don't post on that grandiose scale, because as soon as the public comes in, the perception changes immediately.
shit's taken out of context and all kind. Yeah, for anybody that's followed Barczyk and the mental health breakdowns he's been through because of that shit, man, that was hard to watch.
Yeah,
I feel my heart goes out to Barczyk and Nerd and all the ones that have pioneered this shit and the suffering they had to go through to do it. Yeah, Jay, I respect what Jay's done, but his facility now is not
right. Yeah, there's things that could be said. Yeah, but I mean, so think about this, man. Like, I forgot where the discussion happened, but like we were talking, there was a talk on an Instagram post or whatever about, safe ways to ship really high-end ball pythons, right? This was like many months ago, or like towards the beginning of the year, and I just had to laugh at it because I'm like, man, did you ever hear the story of Brian buying the first pinstripe for $75,000 sight unseen while it was still in Africa? Gets put in a crate and exported to a whole other country. 75 grand, bro. 75 grand. Sight unseen. No pictures, no nothing. No pictures, no nothing. So then we're over here like, yeah, I just saw this, this great picture of a $15,000 Cypress Pompeii, whatever. And I want to make sure that thing is going to get put in a smart car all by itself and hand delivered to me. And it's like, man, you got no idea what risk is, guys.
Yeah. Barczyk rolled the dice on that big time, man. That shout out.
Yeah, dude.
I can't imagine putting $75,000 in a crate and shipping it across the seas.
Dude, for an animal you haven't even seen, you're just taking somebody's word for it. Like, trust me, you're going to want this. Think about that.
High stakes, man. High stakes. I don't think I would have done it.
Dude. But I mean, think about that. Think about that return, though. Look at what pinstripe became. It's a gamble, 100% a gamble. But look at the pinstripe ball python now. Like, to get that animal, it proves out genetic. He probably made over $2 million in the first year of production with that animal. You know what I mean? So, I mean, dude, that's nuts to think about, right? And, like having moments like that in today's world of ball pythons is like, that stuff's never really going to happen again. People make money, but not like that off a single gene animal, that's never been seen before. That's not happening.
Yeah, fair. Do you think we'll ever see anything like that in other species at this point? Like, do you think there's going to be something that takes the market by storm, like Barczyk in the ball python era? I mean, Kevin too.
I mean, nothing's going to ever come close to ball pythons. It's just a fact. Like, nothing's being imported. Nothing was imported in the same numbers, the same volume that ball pythons were. So I don't think we'll ever see that. But, I mean, you've got stuff like pied blood pythons, and now, pied boas, and stuff like that. I think we're going to start to see genes that we've seen in ball pythons, I think, pop up in other species that are still imported from time to time, or that might pop up in F1 or F2 generations, and maybe not make as grand of an impact, but still make an impact. I mean, like, pied bloods and pied boas aren't cheap. Those are still 5-figure snakes. So, but yeah, nothing's going to compare to the ball python stuff. Really, I mean, like, one of the only things that comes close is like the ocelot retic stuff. And that's limited because it's a retic. You're talking about a giant snake. So, from a housing standpoint, it's never going to be the same.
No, I think when it hits the super dwarf, that it'll really explode. But that's so I question whether I'll be alive long enough to see that really take the market by storm. That's a long way away.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's probably not as long as you think, but yeah.
Okay. That gotta be super fucking exciting though. That would be badass. I hope to see it.
But like, so Jeremy, with that said, you working on a secret project or what?
No, I don't really have any secrets here. I got offered a pied blood this year and just didn't have the money So I had to pass on the project. That would have been my secret project, but that number was not coming out.
Man, that would have been dope too. That would have been.
It would have been crazy. And I've got a couple friends that are in that project, and I'm on a wait list for some hets. But throwing out that kind of money right now for me personally is just not in the cards.
Fair enough. Did you watch that podcast that Elijah did with MJ?
I did not. I need to watch it. I have not watched it, but I do need to watch it.
Like 10 out of 10. We did an interview with MJ, and he had mentioned that he brought Elijah on, which, looking backwards, I do remember being super hype about that, and something happened in life, and I totally spaced it. So he was like, did you see it? I was like, no, I didn't even realize you brought him on. Right after that show, I started listening, threw it on Spotify and going to YouTube when they get really hype or whatever. It's like 10 out of 10. Have to go watch that. And anybody that's into the Bloods, like 10 out of 10. Go watch that podcast. Elijah just absolutely lays it out there. I think it's the first ever, possibly the first ever one he's done, and maybe the last. He's not big like doing this kind of shit, which I respect.
Yeah, no, he's. Yeah, I think Rob and I are going to try to get him on the Reptile Talk podcast, but I haven't even reached out to him about doing it yet because I've just been traveling so much. So, but yeah, I mean, he's light years ahead of everybody in Blood Pythons. I mean, he's producing some amazing stuff for sure.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible what he's doing with the projects, man. Shout out to Juggernaut Reptiles. Straight up what he's doing.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
Yeah, man.
So as far as like innovative projects, not secret, but like innovative, what do you got going on? Like, do you got anything that's going to shake up the future?
I don't think I have anything that's super cutting edge. So, I mean, I guess I should preface by saying like my journey with reptiles has been a little over 20 years long. And for anybody wondering, I just turned 30 the other week. So I'm not that old. But I've been doing this since I was really, really young. I had a business when I was a freshman in high school called J&D Reptiles. And that was where I had probably more cutting edge shit. And I had a business partner who screwed me. And I lost a whole bunch of stuff. Like I had some like pastel double head lightning pieds, back in, that was like 2000. Let's see, I closed those doors and back in like 2010. I had pastel double head lightning pieds and stuff. All that stuff kind of went to the wayside. So I took some time off. I was teaching for a while. Music kind of took the forefront. And then when I established Brassman Reptiles, I just kind of wanted to work with the stuff I wanted to work with. And I didn't want to chase the trends. I didn't want to do any of that. I was working towards that, and it cost me a lot of money and it cost me a lot of time. And to start back from zero, I didn't have the energy or at the time the resources to jump back in on that level. So I don't have anything that's necessarily cutting edge, but I have stuff that's I'll say not super common and stuff that I just really enjoy. So like this year, a big one for me was
I was gonna tell him, dude, I want him to show his bloods. They're badass.
Ooh. Was this is a Hidden Gene Woma Black Pastel Enchi Clown, and this is the first one that's ever been produced.
Nice.
So I like the Hidden Gene Woma Clown stuff.
That's gorgeous.
So I did this, and I did Hidden Gene Woma Enchi Leopard Clown. She's all the way over there, so I'm not going to go grab her. But to me, those are super cool because I like Hidden Gene Woma. So I was like, let's make some cool Hidden Gene Woma clowns. But I'm not looking to, and I've got like some double het DG clown stuff and whatever, but I'm not looking to be the next innovator of really anything. I mean, I did world's first stuff when I was in my teens. So I'm kind of done chasing that hype and just more focused on working with the snakes that I enjoy. And just making things that I like looking at.
Absolutely. I concur with that. And so on that note, you have been in the game for 20 years. You know, you're working with the collection that you want to work with. What is some advice that you can give to some of the newer breeders coming into this? You know, where should they start? Whether they want to go the cutting edge or they want to do what you're doing now.
Yeah, I mean, so my biggest piece of advice, usually whenever I'm talking to a new reptile potential breeder, is first of all, find the species that you like. More often than not nowadays is ball pythons, because that's what everybody sees. And that's fine, you know. But I tell people, like, go to reptile show or look at, you know, morph market and look at other things outside of ball pythons if that's what, you know, they're kind of leaning towards, and just look to see what else is available. That's the first thing. Look to see if anything else catches your eye. If you land back on ball pythons, awesome. If that's what you really like, awesome. Next is, what base mutation catches your attention? What single gene mutation catches your attention? Like, all the time, whenever you see it, you're like, I like that, you know. And then whatever that is, now start to look at some other mutations and combos that it's in. Do you still like it as much? If you do, great. Go for that. Go for it because you like it. Don't go for it because of the money. Because the reality is, unless you're willing to drop $50,000 or more on, I'd say, a trio of ball pythons, it's kind of pointless, you know, to do the cutting edge stuff. Because, you know, I'll say, if, and I tell this to people all the time, let's say you go buy a really cool $15,000 snake from Justin or from Ozzy. That's awesome. But they're selling it. What did they keep? If you're not thinking about what is in their holdback racks, you're already behind. You're already behind. So, you know, it's real though, man. Like, the first time I've been to Justin's place a couple times, the first time I went there, he's like, open whatever drawers you want, look at whatever you want, you know, whatever. And I'm like, cool. I opened 5 drawers and was like, I don't want to look at anything else. And he's like, why not? And I was like, because I don't want to feel bad about my life.
I was gonna say,
you know, but you know, and you know, I love Justin to death. I love Ozzy to death. I don't talk to them nearly as much as I probably should, just because I think they're great people. But the game of ball pythons is hard. You know, I'd rather see somebody get into something because they like it than because they're just trying to make a fast buck. So that's always my piece of advice. Find a species that you love. If it's about mutations, find the single gene that you like the most. Check it out in a couple combos, and if you're still attached to it, then go that way. Most of my collection is hidden gene woma and spot nose stuff, because that's the stuff that I like the most. And then the other stuff that I have is to try to figure out how I can plug that into those genes to make cool things. You know, but I could care less about a $10,000 ball python. I make enough money without needing to sit on a snake like that for 6 months before it sells, you know.
Fair enough. That's a lot of respect, man. So as far as, like, when you're looking for a snake now, right? Like, you're on Morph Market or you're at the show, what is it? Do you still use that ideology, or do you have a different, like, preference now that you're this deep into the game? Is it like you see a species and then you're like, oh, what mutations do I want to work with?
That's actually a really good question. To be quite honest with you, a lot of the snakes that I'm looking at now, they really don't have any mutations. So, like, I'm looking at, like, rough scale pythons and Bismarck ring pythons and stuff like that. And, like, there's really no mutations. You know, like, I've got a friend of mine who has a hypermelanistic Bismarck ring python, and I want babies from that because I'm interested in that. But I'm not really looking for that. When it comes to looking for a mutation, especially if I'm looking at ball pythons, I'm trying to be really methodical. So, like, I just got a Cypress Fire Het Clown Pos Het DG female from a friend of mine, and I don't even care about it being Pos Het DG. I don't even have plans to get it tested to see if it is, because all I care about is plugging it into my Hidden Gene Woma clown stuff. I just want to see more Cypress Hidden Gene Woma stuff. So maybe somewhere down the line that might change, and I might be like, yeah, let's see if it is Het for DG, but I don't have visual DG clowns right now, so it's not important to me. It's a Pos Het. You know, I got it because it was Het Clown. The Pos Het DG is just a potential added bonus down the line. So I get intrigued by seeing other people work with the same genes. So like at Daytona, I bought a fire yellow belly hidden Genwoma het pied from my buddy Frank Bird because I wanted to deal with some hidden Genwoma pied stuff, but I didn't want to make hets. I wanted to get a bit of a head start and get something that was already 100% het. Frank's got a bunch of cool hidden Genwoma pied animals that I've been staring at for the last year. And I reached out to him and I was like, hey man, you gonna have any of these at Daytona? Like, I'm buying something from you, you know? And he was like, yeah. So I'm very much more methodical about what I'm looking at now. I need to see examples that kind of get my head running. So when I saw the first hidden Genwoma pieds, I was like, okay, there's some potential in this. I saw that Frank was working that project and I was like, all right, he's the guy I'm going to talk to. So I'm the same way, like, not this past Tinley, but the Tinley prior, I spent some time talking with Justin about the redhead gene, you know, cause I was interested in it, but still didn't understand it all that well. And he was like, you know, there'll be some more stuff popping out, you know, this season, now so that, you know, we can understand it better. And from what I've seen, I'm interested. I don't know if I'm ready to pull the trigger on it yet, but I also need to find the time. I talked with him recently about trying to get down to his place again. So I think if I see some more examples, maybe I'll get lulled into pulling out the American Express card and making a bad choice.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
I mean, I would.
Yeah, man. You know, I'm not searching to add 50 ball pythons to my collection. You know, I don't have a lot of space. I have 40 slots for ball pythons. That's it. So I'm like, whatever I get needs to make sense, you know?
Hey.
Absolutely. No, that's awesome. I love your thought process beyond it and how much like time that you put into it. It's not a fully impulsive decision.
Yeah, there's a little impulse left, but yeah, not much.
I'm like,
I like the thought process. So as far as like your other species go, do you do the same thing? Like, do you look into the species and just sit on it, think about it, like where you're going to go with it, what you want to do with it? You know, think about like essentially like a 5-year plan with that certain species that you're looking at. Like, let's take the pine snakes that you mentioned very early on. You know, it's something close to my heart. I love pine snakes, bull snakes, all of them.
Yeah. I guess it really depends. Like, sometimes the colubrids are a little bit easier for me to impulse buy because they're a lower impact species overall as far as like space and stuff like that. So I can justify that a little easier. Like when I started getting into Mexicanus, I think I dropped like $2,000 on the first group, you know, because I was just like, yep, I want all those. Here's the money, you know, send me that. You know, because I was just like, I can justify these are very small growing species. I bought one at first and was just kind of like learning the species a little bit and was like super into it. And then I got an offer to grab a whole bunch of stuff that came in from Europe. And I was just like, yeah, here's the money. Just send me snakes. You know, and I'm grateful that I'm in that position where I can do stuff like that. But, you know, like, I've got like Cape gopher snakes, Cape Baja gopher snakes, the vertebralis, which you rarely see anymore. And I just turned down, I haven't even officially turned it down, but I never responded back to the person that got a whole bunch in from Europe. And if you asked me a year ago if I wanted them, I would have bought every single one. But I have a pair right now, so I'm like, I don't necessarily need more. It would be great to have more, but I don't necessarily need it, and I'm a little limited for space right now, so I'm trying to play my cards a little closer to the chest right now. In 6 months we could talk again and I could be like, yeah, man, I got 15 of these fuckers. You know, I don't know, but yeah, I'm not like right now I'm not looking to add more species per se. I'm kind of at my max where I'm at right now, so I'm just kind of looking at like, okay, I could downsize a little bit here. You know, I don't necessarily need a whole bunch of het genetic striped Brettles pythons. You know, I have visuals, so I could probably let go of a couple hets, you know, just to make some extra space. Like I'm looking at that kind of stuff right now, to make things make more sense moving forward. And as that starts to transpire, then maybe that'll open up a few impulse purchases. Like I would love to get more colubrids, actually. Like the whole Lamprepeltis genus, I love to death. I have since I was a kid, so I could easily get. And when I'm talking numbers, like I'm crazy because I'm like I could easily get 150 Lamprepeltis and be very happy with that. You know, like I might cry when I get the food bill, but but in instance, you know, I'd be like, yeah, 150 king and milk snakes. Yeah, let's do that. I'm down, you know.
Damn.
Oh, yeah. That's easy. I almost did that earlier today. I got off of that. It was hard. They're local species, so first of all, I shouldn't be buying them. But second of all, it's hard to justify numbers that are thrown at you when they're local. It's like I can just work with an F1 line at that point. Anyways, but yeah, no, with the kings and milks, man, it's fuck. I smell what you're stepping in. There's a lot of relation there where it can be super impulsive, super quick.
Yep, 100%, man, 100%.
What localities are you drawn to the most out of the kings and milks?
Well, like Cal Kings, I have an affinity for Cal Kings. When I first started doing Cals, I was really heavy into the mutation game. Now I like a lot more of the Long Beach high white stuff. That's mostly what I have, but I also really like the Scissors Crossing. They just get the single white stripe down the back, but they're a more black snake overall. I like that locality a lot. I've been really enjoying the Mexicanus, so I think I would be willing to entertain getting like some Greer Eye and stuff like that, some like odds and ends. I've kept some of the Mountain King species in the past. Those are fun. They're just low production animals, so it's tricky to justify getting a lot of them because you know they do eat a lot, and the babies can be a little tricky to start. So you're only getting 3 to 6 eggs on average out of them. So it's kind of one where it's like, it really would be a passion project kind of deal. Milk snakes. I love so many different milk snakes. Like, oh my gosh. I don't think I have any milk snakes right now. And to me, that's a problem. I bred Pueblans, I bred Nelsons, I bred Andeans, I bred Hondurans, I bred a lot of milk snakes in the past, and I really do like them. Honestly, I think I would if somebody offered me a really smoking pair of either Oreo or Halloween Pueblans, like no added color, like just black and white or orange and black. Mm-hmm. Then I would probably pull the trigger on those right now. Like if they were just like, hey, I've got these, I need to let them go, I would just buy them. You know that
those are I was gonna say those are badass. That's fun.
Yeah, man. You know, and like the again, I keep going back to the Mexicanus just because like I have my group of them right here and I really enjoy them. There's a guy on Instagram, I'm forgetting his name, but he has been working with the polygenic stripe trait, which comes out of the granite gene. And he was showing me some pictures and I'm like, when you get babies, just tell me how much you want. You know, like, I'm just like, I want those, you know, again, low impact, smaller animal, easier to work with. You know, I mean, I think the one thing I don't want to go into a whole other long tangent unless it goes in that direction, but, when you start talking about breeding larger quantities of snakes, very few people talk about the numbers of the business and what that entails, you know, and anybody who's currently having to purchase rodents, or even if you breed your own rodents and you're purchasing rodent food, you're feeling the impact of those bills right now. As the economy struggles, we are struggling big time. You know, so looking at an animal that eats 35-cent mouse versus a $2.50 rat looks amazing.
Oh yeah, it's about a third of the cost to feed my colubrids than it is my boas.
Yeah.
I was like, it's funny you say that because I was watching one of his lives the other day. He was talking about the market being saturated with ball pythons, that it just goes up and down like this. And fudge, I lost where I was going with this.
Good job. You pulled a Levi. Congratulations.
I did. I had it and I lost it.
And it's gone.
All that shit talking.
Yeah.
I did it with of all the fucking people. I did it with Billy. I just like drew a blank. Looked like a fucking idiot.
No, whatever, Levi.
You're fired, Chris.
I am.
Dang. No, well, I mean, the industry definitely does move in waves, and you know, I mean, like the economy plays a role in that as well. Obviously, you know, the longevity of you as a business really is based on your ability to maintain yourself during the times of inactive periods. You know, like sales are low. I'll be 100% transparent with you right now. Sales are horrible right now.
That's
you
where
know,
I'm going.
yeah, and it's just but it is what it is. You know, I mean, I survived the 2008-2009 recession period, you know, so I'm more than willing to handle this, and I have enough funds that should carry me through, you know, so I'm not stressing, but you know, I'm feeling it for sure, you know, and I know some other people in the business that are, you know, crushing it right now, and you know, and that's great, and I'm happy for them. It's just how the business is, you know. I'm not sour by that whatsoever. It's just kind of what we have to go through and deal with, and it just is what it is. You know, the ones who handle it with grace are the ones that stick around for the long haul, you know.
Absolutely.
That's just how it is. But yeah, financially, you know, I mean, every minute you've got heat tape running is costing you money. You know, every rat that you've got to feed off, every mouse that you've got to feed off costs you money. You know, and a lot of people don't talk about profit margins and what that really looks like. And, you know, I mean, like it's bad when you're starting to vend reptile shows and you've got normal ball pythons on your table for $40 and somebody asks you if you can do better. And you say, well, I'll do $20. And they say, well, will you do 10? You know, and the answer is like, no, I'm not going to give you wholesale price for that. If you want that, you go start a business and you create a wholesale account with somebody. And, you know, I've said that to people straight up as well. And I get kind of like the weird looks, and I'm just like, sorry, man, you know, because I have to look at what it costs me to maintain everything that I have. And if I sell you that snake at $10, I'm losing money, you know. And it also shows to me, because you're haggling me on a $40 snake, that you don't really value this animal's life if you're not willing to put two $20 bills in my hand. And honestly, I think even that's too cheap. We're talking about a living creature, you know. So I think there's not enough discussion that happens on that side of what we do. And I think that's because as soon as you really start to talk about money and finances, a lot of people just get like, well, you're just in this for the money now. And it's like, no, man, but I have a business. Like, I'm paying taxes, you know, maybe I have an employee or whatever. Like, you need to pay attention to money in, money out, you know, and that's a fact. You know, and it's interesting to me that like we live in a world where people are like, yeah, chase your dreams. If you can make money off what you love, then that's amazing. Until it comes to like live animals. Then it's like, oh, you're the devil. You know, like you should be broke all the time because you love the animals. And it's like, no, man, trust me, I'm not out here going to buy a freaking Ferrari, you know, because I breed ball pythons, man. But like, I got a car payment to make. You know, like I got to pay for insurance. I got to pay for doctor's bills and whatever else comes my way. You know, I'm self-employed. I don't get insurance just lulled into my lap, you know? So it's like, yeah, I have to look at what every animal costs me every week that goes by that it doesn't sell, you know, and then price, you know, if I'm going to adjust prices to maybe make things move, it still needs to make sense financially. You know, so no, I'm not going to sell you a normal ball python for $10. I won't even sell it to you for $20, you know, because it doesn't make sense, especially as the price of mice go up. Like, no, sorry.
Yeah. I don't think, you know, I don't think that breeders think about that enough. I don't think that buyers think about that enough. You know, when they do go up and try to haggle a normal, it's already $40. Like that's, you know, that is essentially you're getting a wholesale price without getting an actual wholesale price at that point. I mean, you're paying the absolute lowest denominator for that animal that you're going to see without somebody genuinely wholesaling the animal, because they don't think about the food. They don't think about the tub, the electricity, the overhead, you know, your fucking food bill. You know, you got to put food on your table. If you're not eating, how are the animals eating? If you're not living, how are the animals living?
Yep. 100%. And, you know, I mean, a part of that conversation goes into like, you know, being the industry that we live in and social media running our world, you get the argument of racks versus cages and all of that stuff. And, you know, yeah, I know exactly. And, you know, I mean, like I'll point out, like I bring it up only because, like, again, when we're talking about the finances and the economic aspect of what we do, if you're running a business, if you just want to keep a couple snakes, do whatever the hell you want. Get a 6-foot cage for your ball python, whatever, man. But like, let's just look at one level of a CB70 rack. One strip of heat tape that's maybe, I don't know, let's just say 10 watts, just to have a nice round number, right? 10 watts to maintain 3 snakes. Perfect. 10 watts of electricity per month. Fine. Okay. Now, let's say I'm using cages. If I'm using, let's just say, a 3-foot cage, then I've got a 40-watt radiant heat panel. So already for one snake, it's costing me 4 times as much to heat that enclosure. If I want 3 snakes, now let's look at that. You know what I mean? So now let's say I'm breeding only those 3 snakes. Obviously, if I only have 3 snakes, I'm probably going to keep them in a cage. But if I'm looking at the economics of this, 10 watts divided by 3 snakes, I'm talking 3.33 watts per snake. Okay, we're talking about a very small cost here. But now 3 snakes at 40 watts each, plus the cost of food, plus the cost of my time to maintain that animal. It's a lot more labor intensive going into a cage and pulling bedding out and doing all this stuff than it is with a rack that I'm using paper to keep things more sterile, because I need these animals to live and thrive. And I'm not going to sit in there and stare at it every day, so I've got to think about all of these elements and all these factors. So just at a base point alone, it's costing me almost 12 times as much as a baseline. Just to maintain 3 animals.
Damn.
I have 350. So you know what I mean? Let's think about that. I'm not even bringing into the equation food. Whatever, I breed my own rats, so that's great. But when I have a lull in production and I have to buy supplementary rats, which happens 2 to 3 months out of the year when we get really hot here in North Carolina, production slows down. So I got to buy rats. That's anywhere from $2 to $4 per rat per week. So I might try to slow down feedings and try to do every other week, because it's a big adult ball python and it can handle 2 weeks without food. But that's still costing me, let's just say it's $2.50 a rat. So that's still going to cost me $5 a month on top of the extended price of heating and labor. Like when you start breaking down all these numbers, it doesn't make sense. Then your $40 normal ball python that gets produced because I keep snakes in racks now becomes $150 normal ball python because I've got to heat 3 huge cages. That costs me an extra $20 a month in electricity, or whatever the cost comes out to be, because it varies everywhere.
Do you know the average cost per watt in your city or in your facility, house, wherever you're at? Like, just an idea.
No, I know it costs me to run everything that I run, racks, freezer for surplus rodents, stuff like that. It costs me about $200 a month. So I'll say let's just say it's a little under $1 per snake to maintain for just keeping the heat going.
And Jeremy, have you ever been shows?
What's that?
Have you ever been to shows?
Hold that question.
All right. Sorry.
We're not done with the subject, because I just want to prove his point even further here, because he's talking over the last 3 years. Steve taught me a lot, and this is one of them. So you're paying about $200 a month right now in just electricity to maintain your room. If you move over to all enclosures, and this is just a rough number, it would cost you $1,050 approximately, and that's probably well off the mark. It would probably go up way higher than that, to be honest. I mean, 40-watt panel fluctuating, and all the other nonsense that goes into it. You got more air flowing through the enclosure. It's going to work harder. Yeah. So, as an example, that's more than triple what you're paying.
Yeah. Yep.
That's insanity. That's never would no smart business person would ever do that. For anybody that's questioning that, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. If you were to go to Elon Musk and tell him, hey, you're building Teslas for $200 a month right now, but it's inhumane and you look like an idiot in just my eyes and a handful of people's, you should do it this way for more than triple, he'd smack you. Like, let's be realistic here.
Right.
Yeah, I'll say it louder for the people in the back.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true, man. And it's just, it's something that we who are doing this as a business don't often discuss, because the backlash that comes with talking about numbers with living animals, but the reality is, if you want to be able to afford certain things, it has to make sense economically and financially for you. If this is your primary source of income, you got bills to pay, man. Like your price points need to make sense. Nobody's making a living selling normal ball pythons, and they certainly wouldn't be doing that if it was costing us 3 times as much to maintain a third of the collection, like sheesh. So
insanity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once you start talking numbers, people do tend to back off a little bit and start freaking out. And it's I really love the fact that you touched on that, because we've touched on it a handful of times, the numbers that actually go into it, and the overhead costs and breaking things down. I don't understand the stigma behind living animals, though. It's hard, I guess, as like a person that understands business and how numbers work and all the back end shit that goes into any business for that matter. I don't, from a business aspect, outside of like take the life away from it, I don't understand the difference between breeding animals and building cars. Honestly, take the heartbeat away from it, it's almost the same exact thing. You're putting as much TLC into both, just one has a damn heartbeat. I don't understand why, because nobody's going to go up to the dude that just built a 69 Monte Carlo and be like, oh, well, because it's this specific thing, it should be lower money. No, it's whatever time I put into it, plus the, the value of the vehicle and all the numbers that work into it. You're not going to, you'll try to haggle a little bit, which is fine, but nobody's going to go, oh, I want that car for wholesale.
Right.
And if you do, you're going to get punched in the mouth. Like, it's that simple.
Yeah, 100%. And valuation of time is such a speculative thing as well. How do you value your time? What number do you, like, if you had to go get a 9-to-5 job, what are you willing to take? What are you not willing to take? And how do you value that for your time? Can you make that translate? Does it make sense when you translate that, especially if that means you put a price point on an animal and you're, firm on that price point. Are you willing to sit on that animal until you make that money? Does it make sense financially? Are you still making the same money at the end of the day by the time that animal sells? As the food increases and the price of that food increases, are you adjusting price points? Are you going higher on your prices? Are you reducing your prices? And at the end of the day, does it all make sense? So there's a lot of things that take into consideration there that most people just don't think about.
It needs to be thought about, though, to be honest with you. The more that it gets talked about, the more that it becomes the norm, the more that I think buyers will see it more like the car market, like in the example I was saying, if you walked up to somebody that built a car from scratch and you'd ask them for wholesale, you would get punched in the mouth. Just on principle.
Right.
I would never walk up and do that to somebody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, I know, like me personally, like I'm usually always willing to haggle a little bit on prices, but again, I do this for a living. I also am not reliant on reptiles solely for income. I have income coming in from other ways. So I don't necessarily, if I put $500 on something, if somebody offers me $400 cash in that moment, if I'm like, yeah, I could probably deal with that. Yeah, that's fine. Because now I have to think of it like, especially if I'm vending a show, I've got to think about, all right, I'm going to take that animal back home. When's the next show? It's already posted on Morph Market, and maybe I've only had 1 inquiry or 2 inquiries on it. So when's the next show? Oh, the next show's in a month and a half, that I'm personally available to do. Do I want to feed this thing for another 6 weeks, and lose that profit margin, or do I take the initial, hit? Don't worry about feeding that animal. You know what I mean? Like, there's all these things that we have to think about in those moments. But again, not relying on this solely as a form of income, I have a little bit more flexibility to make that happen. And I also don't want to reduce the value of an animal because of that. So I'm not, if somebody offered me $200 for a $500 snake, I'm not taking it. Like I'm not in that position either.
Real quick, that was about the best piece of advice for anybody buying snakes at an expo. If you want to haggle, that's how you do it. Get to know the breeder, figure out what their situation is, and offer them a reasonable deal. Don't fucking lowball them and cut them low, and go. Yeah, going to pay you $200 for a $500 animal. It's going to be no 99% of the time. But
I worked with a guy who got somebody like lowball, like really gave him a lowball offer, and he looked right in their face and was like, "I'd rather eat this snake than sell it to you at that price." And I was like, "Oh God." And they looked mortified, but they're like, "Do you know how much, I value that animal? Like, I'm not going to sell it at that price. And I need you to have that kind of visceral reaction so that you understand what I'm telling you."
Absolutely.
Chris,
you got a question?
Oh, he already answered it. I was just going to ask him if he's been to vendor shows and where does he see himself in 5 years, like a 5-year plan.
Yeah, so I don't vend a lot of shows. The Raleigh show in North Carolina is probably like the one show that I will always vend, because that show has been really good to me every single time. I've vended a few other shows. I really don't vend outside of North Carolina just because I travel enough for work as it is. I don't like traveling when I don't need to. It puts a lot of extra stress on the animals. I'd rather go to a show and hang.
Yeah, that's what we want to do.
Yeah, so I'll vend Raleigh because it's a good show. I think I'm going to try to vend Tinley next year. But nothing crazy. I'm not out here going weekend to weekend, show to show. I don't have the mental capacity for that. And I would lose my shit probably pretty quickly. So I, just to be totally honest, I would probably lose my shit. So, for my own sanity and for other people's safety, I don't vend very many shows.
Okay.
So as far as like your business plan for the next 5 years, where do you see yourself? Do you see yourself in a facility? Do you see yourself expanding the collection to, let's say, 700, doubling, just as an example?
No, absolutely not. I actually see myself downsizing a little bit, to be totally honest with you. So, music stuff has been really good to me this year. And is kind of setting me up for a lot more traveling going into 2023. So I need to make this here make a little bit more sense. So like I was saying before, like how I have some like het striped Brettles pythons, they're breeders that I don't really necessarily need because I have visuals and like that kind of stuff. I'm like, now I'm taking the time to kind of go through my collection, especially going into the next breeding season. I'm really paying attention to what I have and realizing like I don't need to breed that animal. I have something that's a year away from breeding, so I can let that girl have a year off and I can, sell it. That's what I'm looking at now. I'd actually be okay with downsizing by like 30%, and still be pretty confident because, only a small portion of my collection is ball pythons. Like I'm only producing anywhere from 15 to 25 ball python clutches a year. But I'm still producing 300 or 400 babies because I've got carpet pythons and blood pythons and colubrids and whatever, so I'm still producing a large quantity of babies because most of my clutches are 10 to 20 eggs per clutch, not 5 or 6 eggs. So I would be fine with downsizing about 30%, maybe getting close to 40% in all honesty. To make things make sense. Because my thing is, obviously I'm breeding, I keep things in racks and whatever. I still want to make sure that my animals are getting the best quality of life that they can. So if I'm in a position where I'm feeling like, hey, things might get kind of tight, I'm going to be pushing myself to my breaking point if I maintain where I'm at. And that's not good for me, which in turn becomes not good for the animals. I'd rather cut back on a few things. And be safer for that. So in the next 5 years, I see myself, like I said, downsizing, and focusing on the species that I enjoy and the highest quality versions of those species, whether it be genetics, or it just be like animals that come from really good lineage, having the best of the best that I can have because I don't have an unlimited amount of resources. I do not ever want to be in a facility. I've always told myself if I start getting to a point where I can't maintain things on my own, I don't want to do it anymore. Because as soon as you bring in an employee, then you start opening yourself up to other potential variables for mishaps. I'll take some blood pythons off here. I'm not really letting go of any blood pythons. So
I was just telling him too. I was like, Jeremy has some badass blood pythons, and I wanted you to pull one out. But
I mean, I think I can do that. I've got a little guy that's pretty badass I can pull out because he's right here. Here's he needs to get, I'm going to feed him actually tonight. It's a golden eye ivory. Paws het T-paws.
that's gorgeous.
Yeah, I like this snake a lot.
That is gorgeous.
Wow.
Bro.
I think it's insane.
For real, bro, right? I told you had some bloods, bro. Let's.
Yeah, I like the bloods, that's for sure.
Did you have like some babies not too long ago?
Yeah, I've got some baby stuff. They're in the other room.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
those were like little leopard spotted ones or something.
Oh, those are the baby Borneos. Yeah, those were these guys.
Oh shit.
Let's see.
Bro,
Man, slow that man back out.
yeah, my bad.
I'm about to pull out one of the coolest snake species in the world.
Yeah,
Look
that
at
flash.
snake.
Oh,
Yeah, here's so this is a little baby super striped Borneo.
look at that, bro.
Whoa.
Yeah, these guys are awesome, man.
That is, oh man, that's breathtaking. That's insane.
Bro, I love his bloods, man. If I could, I'd buy one from him right now.
Yeah, man. There's a lot. There's a lot.
So Jeremy, when you do have productions available, are you on Morph Market?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I do everything through Morph Market. You can just look me up, Brassman Reptiles. It's all there. Yeah, I probably have another 20 or 30 animals I need to post on there between carpets and a few other short tails, I think. Yeah, probably about another 20 or 30 animals, but I probably got like 70 or so up right now. So
Nice. You got colubrids up there?
I don't have any colubrids up there. So most of my colubrids I've just been raising up. I'll have a bunch of Cal Kings that'll breed this coming season. My colubrids have been like my passion project. I'm not really in a rush to breed them, so I've been feeding them a little more of like the wild diet ratio. So they're getting fed every couple of weeks instead of every week. So they're growing kind of slow. But that being said, now I'm at the point where I'm like, all right, I've been feeding you for a while. It's time to get some production out of you. So now they're getting kind of pushed on the food side. So I'll have Cal Kings probably going into next year, and then the following season I'll have corns and pines and gophers and Mexicanus, maybe some Goinai. Yeah, so not 2023, but 2024 colubrids will kind of be taken over.
Okay. I'll be keeping my eye on that.
Heck yeah.
Bro, I'm always watching him, dude. Like, his snakes are just phenomenal, bro. I'm just like, what is he doing now?
I appreciate it. I appreciate that, man. Yeah,
like,
no,
seriously.
dude, it's just like I said, I just like too much shit, man. But you know, so I've always gotten myself into trouble, man. I remember wandering through like the White Plains, New York show, and like I had a really good show, and I remember like leaving the show, and I've got, you know, my show displays that I'm loading into the car, and then I've got a bin of just snake bags from, I probably bought like 30 or 40 snakes from the show. And I'm just like, yeah, I got new things, you know, and then very quickly was like, shit, I got a lot of new things. So
It's always when you go to put them away that you realize you're like, oh shit.
exactly, yeah.
Oh man, that's fucking awesome. I love the variety that you picked, man. That's like one of the biggest things that drew me to you in the first place. Before I knew that you were involved with US Art, my colubrid mentor Leonard was like, "Hey, go check out Jeremy over at Brassman." He was like, "You're into colubrids and the heavy body pythons." He was like, "He's got some heat sitting in there." I was like, "Okay, cool." And then I saw you were, what the hell was it? There was another thing. I was just like, "Oh my god, this guy is fucking crazy with his bloods." I do remember seeing that. You did an episode with MJ, right? You've been on the show.
I've been on MJ's show, yeah.
A couple of times, right?
Yeah, I think I've done it like 2 or 3 times.
Okay. I want to make sure I have my podcast there, right? I listen to so many at this damn point, they all start to mash together. I was like, this person was on with this yeah, that's where I found out that.
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Man,
Thanks for showing off.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I mean, I just, like I said, I love all this stuff, man. I'm just a reptile lover, like, ever since I was a kid, man. Like anything I could work. Dude, I've kept flying snakes, the Chrysopelia ornata. I've kept those. I've kept Oreocryptophis, the bamboo rat snakes and stuff. Like I love all of that stuff. It's there's not enough time, there's not enough space, you know, but yeah, it's crazy. Like I think it was a couple months ago I made a post about, you know, over the last 20 plus years, having kept, you know, nearly 6 dozen species of reptiles and amphibians and breeding almost that many as well. Like that's kind of crazy to me, you know, in 20 years, you know, and it's like, first of all, wow, I've been doing this for 20 years, but second of all, like, wow, most people like only keep 1 or 2 species that they breed. And that's like their entire career is just doing that. And, you know, I'm grateful that I had really supportive parents growing up that let me kind of do whatever. But I'm also thankful that, you know, I have kind of that wandering eye, you know, for different snakes, and I've just had a knack for reptiles. So breeding, I can't say breeding all these species comes easy, but, you know, when I really like dive in and focus on something, like I'll make it happen. You know, I remember I used to joke around with Barchek, because Barchek always jokes that he's not good at breeding boas. He's made that joke for years. It's like, I'm not a good boa breeder. Like boas don't breed well for me. And I remember the first time I bred BCI, I literally just threw them together. I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, I'm going to go give this a shot. I read Vin Russo's book. I got this. I'm fine. And like, bam, like got a litter that year and everything. And I remember like sending Brian a photo and was just like, eat it, motherfucker.
Eat it. That was awesome.
That's fucking great.
You know, but like, dude, I mean, the first time I bred Retix, man, like I produced, she was either the world's first or one of the first 3 Super Tiger Orange Ghost Stripes. That was the first thing I ever produced when I bred Retix. And I think I was first. Shane Costello produced them a couple months later, and then Jay Brewer produced them like around the same time, I think. So I think this one was the first. But like I remember doing that, and like Kevin, I posted some pictures and sent him some pictures, and Kevin, you know, gave me the like good job, you know, the attaboy, and I was like, that like geeked me out, because I was like, man, you know, Kevin's like bred all these things, and like I got some kudos from the guy, you know, that like bred Retix before like really anybody, you know. And that's, dude, it's crazy, man. Like I don't want to go on like a whole tangent about it, but it's crazy. It's surreal to me. Like, you know, if you guys saw the post that I did with myself and Kevin and Pete Call, like people my age now don't even really know who Pete Call is. You know, they might know like Call albino boas or whatever, but the number of people who I've mentioned Pete's name to, and they're like, oh, who's Pete? And I'm like, you know, Pete Call, like the guy that, you know, proved out piebalds and bred the first albino boas because Brian Sharp couldn't, or whatever, you know, whatever it was. I think it was Brian that had it, whatever. And then they're like, well, who's Brian Sharp? And I'm like, oh God, why? Like, you guys are horrible, you know, but, you know, to think about it, man, like I've been able to have conversations with guys like, you know, Eugene Bissett, and, you know, I've been to Crutchfield's place, and I've been to Eugene's place, and, you know, I've been to Pete's place. I've had conversations with Brian Sharp, and, you know, this Tinley, I posted something because this Tinley, I met Mike Wilbanks in person for the first time. I've had conversations with Mike before and on conference calls with Kevin and stuff. And Mark Bailey is another guy that not too many people know about. You know, and I went introduced myself to Mark, and he's like, yeah, I know who you are. And I was like lost my mind. You know, Ron St. Pierre awesome, was a freaking another one. You know, like I met Ron like I was friends with Ron on Facebook, but that's different. You know, it's like you can add anybody on Facebook, but you know, to go up to Ron's table and like there's a whole bunch of people having a conversation with him, and then they all start to walk away, and he stands up and you know, extends his hand and is like, it's nice to finally meet you, Jeremy. And I'm like, that's what I was gonna say to you, you son of a bitch. Like, what? You know,
that's awesome.
Like
though.
Those moments to me mean everything, man, because these are the guys that laid the groundwork for everything that we do today. You know, like when people give me shit for, you know, association with Kevin and whatever, and for whatever reason, or Barcheck and whatever, I'm like, man, you know, I've known these guys for a long, you know, in some instances a long time. And, you know, I mean, I met Barcheck when I was probably like 14, you know, and I'm like, man, these are guys that I consider friends, you know. So, and I know them on a outside of Reptiles note. Like I remember going to see, I think it was Transformers 3D in theaters with Barcheck and my mom. Like, like shit. What? That's you know, awesome. Like, but you know, like these are, I'm looking at them like these are my friends, but also like these are the people that set the groundwork for us to do what we do now. You know, and
they kicked in the fucking door.
They did, man. You know, and like I tell people now, like I see there's my generation, you know, our generation, guys that are, you know, late 20s, early 30s, you know, we're like the new big deals, right? You've got the Kabelkas, you know, kind of going into like mid 30s or whatever. Actually, I don't even really know how old Justin is, but anyway, then you've got the generation before that, the Bryans, the Kevins, the Jays, the whatever. But then there's the generation before them, the Craig Trumbauers, the Lee Abbotts, the Eugene Bissetts, the Tom Crutchfields, the Philip DeVogels, all these guys. So and if you look at it, they've all provided something, right? So the Crutchfields and Eugene Bissetts and all those guys, those are the guys that figured out how to keep these things alive and kind of were figuring out how to breed them. You know, how do we get them to live when they get them out of the crate? Cool. You know, the Bryans, the Kevins, the Jays, those were the guys that were like, hey, I can make a business out of this. You know, Bob Clark with the albino berms, you know, selling them $3,000 a piece or whatever it was. I can make a business out of this. I can make a living breeding reptiles. That's crazy. And they built that framework. They built that infrastructure. I think our generation, those of us in our late 20s, early 30s, kind of creeping into mid 30s, we're the ones that brought that to social media, right? We figured out how to push it to the masses, right? And it started a little bit with, you know, like with Brian and Jay, you know, but it was really like our generation that's been pushing that forward. Social media runs everything that we do. So now looking at the next generation, the people that are in their late teens going into early 20s, what are they going to bring to the table, right? So each generation has something that they've brought, you know, to the community, to the industry. So I'm interested. Like I don't waste my time with a lot of the next generation, and not to say that they're not, you know, deserving of my time. Of course I answer questions when they have questions, but as far as like, I guess you could go to the extent of saying like mentorship or something like that, I'm just very busy. It's not because I don't want to. I am just a very busy person. I think I have one or two, they're kids really, you know, in their late teens, early 20s that, you know, have shown me enough promise where I can be like, hey man, here's my number. You know, if you have a question about something, text me and I'll gladly help you along. But I just don't have the time to do that for all the people that would like to reach out to me. I'm very bad at responding to my message request file. You know, whatever. So I'm just interested to see what that next generation is going to bring to the table. And I'm interested to see what the generation after that brings to the table, because we just don't know how society and how the world is going to change, how the industry is going to change, you know. So I started thinking about that more so after Daytona and Tinley this year, having these interactions with these legends, these real legends. Like I'm sorry, in my brain, if you're between the ages of 27 and 35, you're not a legend. You're not anywhere close to a pioneer. You never will be. You aren't now. You're just good at what you do. That's awesome. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for coming along the ride with the rest of us. The guys who are 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, those are the legends. Those are the OGs. Those are the guys that put us in a position to do what we're doing now. Yep. So to be able to have conversations with those guys meant so much to me and got me in way more of a state of thought, about this topic, and being curious on what's coming next, what's going to get brought to the table next. And it has me excited. It has me nervous, but it has me excited. Because we don't know what the hell is going to happen. Maybe there's an 18-year-old somewhere that in the next 3 years is going to figure out how to breed Boelen's pythons consistently. We don't fucking know.
Funny you speak on that, because there is a young cat in the game that might have figured it out.
Really?
Yeah, there's not a lot on it, and I don't want to speak on it because I don't know enough about the person, but I would touch base with MJ on that one.
Okay. All right. I'm here for that. I would totally be interested in that. Yeah, like that's
somebody's got to solve it eventually, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I really appreciate the fact that you said that, because that needs to be spoken about more in this community too, is the forefathers, the grandfathers that have really made this shit possible for us. I think that, like when I address Kevin, it's with respect. I'm fucking nobody. Kevin's a goddamn legend. Kevin kicked in the door for what I do. I breed boas. Well, I don't breed boas, but I work with boas. God damn it. Kevin's like the innovator for my generation. And then, the ones prior to him, even more respect for figuring, like you said, keeping them alive, figuring out how they process and what we need to do. None of this is possible without them. Not a single thing that we do. And I think that the generation coming in, if I could say something to them, it'd be show respect. Period.
Yeah.
Your generation, even yours, you guys have done, you, Nerd, Barchek, everybody that's been involved in this fight for US ARC and keeping our rights has been, I think that, that might be the next generation's big task, is not innovating the snakes, but innovating how we keep them legally, like the legality issues, because we're facing unprecedented times. I know history repeats itself and it's happened before, but nothing like this, right?
No, nothing like this. No, and it's and that's one of the things I try to tell people all the time. I think it was I did an interview with Gavin from Balls to You at Tinley, and I think he was the one that asked me. I think MJ asked me this too when we did the Tinley spotlight. Was if you were to tell somebody just getting into the hobby now what US ARC is, how would you describe it? And I was like, oh, well, that's easy. You're able to get into the industry right now because of US ARC. We would have been dead 12 years ago. People forget about HR 669 and SB 2811. That was going to take everything exotic out. That was going to knock it all down, dude. Everything. I was there fighting on that. Not like literally in person, but I was involved. I was sending in those emails, making those phone calls. I was sending in video clips and photos for people's like big video things that they were doing. Like that was like all hands on deck, because we were like, man, this could be the end. This could be the end. And if it wasn't for US ARC at that time, we would have died. The entire exotic animal industry would have died. So that's the easiest thing to tell people, like, well, what does US ARC do? Well, you're here, aren't you? You're buying this snake. That's because of US ARC. Your favorite pet store is still around because of US ARC. So,
yep. I mean, it speaks for itself too. The Lacey Act, we beat it, and it's because of US ARC.
Yep.
There's no other rhyme nor reason. I mean, if it wasn't for US ARC, we would have never known about it. That shit was buried.
Yep.
That was deep in that fucking bill. I mean, it was 1,000 pages in or something like that. That act was trying to get slipped through. Like it dead of night. What was it? The Patriot Act. It reminded me a lot of the Patriot Act. Overnight, it would have passed, and people would have been like, "What the fuck just happened?"
Yep.
Oh, what do you mean we can't do this? Yeah, it just slipped through. It is what it is. Nobody's reading 1,000 pages in. It's not on the first 3 pages. You lost somebody's attention. So
ding,
shout
ding,
out
ding. Yeah.
That was
absolutely
huge. When I found out it was 1,000 pages in, I was like, holy shit, somebody did some reading in USARK, and respect to that individual. Whoever did that shit, and hats off, because I don't have the attention span to do that. I mad respect on that.
Yeah. No, man, it's the real freaking deal, man. It really is.
And I want to shout out Jeremy right now for like doing what he does with the USR. And if Jeremy, you have like Instagram. I know you're on Instagram. Are you on just Instagram only, or something else like TikTok or anything else?
No, I'm everywhere, dude. I'm Facebook, Instagram. I just created a Vero account the other day to see what the hell that was all about. So, because I'm horrible and social media runs my life. No, I'm on TikTok too. It's all under Brass Man. I think TikTok, I just changed mine to the Brass Man because I kind of have it combining the reptile and the music stuff. But if you look up Brass Man Reptiles, it's all there everywhere. Because, like I said, I have no life. It's just all dictated by my phone.
They're all metal going down.
Yeah, exactly. But no, man, I appreciate it. You know, I really do. I'm happy that I was able to make this work because I know we were trying to lock in a date for a little while to try to make it happen. You know, I would. Conversations like this, I'm always willing to have, because even though we've touched on so many different topics, I feel like they all provide some value and there's some importance to them. So, you know, whoever the listeners are that are hanging with us, you know, through all this, kudos to you guys for listening to me talk my shit for the last 2 hours. You know, thanks. Thanks.
I actually got one more question for you, Jeremy. Since you've like been in the industry for so long, and seen the ups and downs, and like you've seen a lot. Like, if you could change one thing in this industry, what would it be and why?
Oh man, that's a hard one.
Question.
It is a loaded question. You know what? I think I would probably change, and this is a challenging one because it's one that's done us good, but I feel has also done a little bit of a disservice. I would not have worked to publicize the breeding aspect of this industry as largely as it has been shown on social media, because everybody that gets into it with the mentality of becoming a breeder, and not just enjoying the animals for what they were. I mean, my bedroom as a kid, like my back wall was all full of tanks with all my first reptiles that I ever kept, and I had these great enclosures set up and everything, and you know, I loved that, you know, and that's where I really got to understand behavior of the animals that I was working with and stuff. And, you know, I mean, there's certainly people who are pushing that, and there's a lot of those people that are getting popular on social media or are popular on social media, and I'm thankful for that. But I think we kind of went about it backwards in kind of publicizing what we do in the breeder world, which is still valid and still valuable. I don't want to discredit it for what it is. But I think because that's what got so much of the attention first, we've pushed people in the direction of thinking, oh, well, if you're going to get snakes, it's because you're going to breed them, not because you're going to just want to enjoy them. So I think that would be the thing that I would change. I would want people who enjoy keeping those animals to be making content first, and then have breeders come in almost secondary. I think that's what I would probably change.
Fuck yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. My biggest... Okay, so I'll follow the question up with a question. Is, you know, and it's more of like a backing to what you're saying. So people that are first getting into the industry, would you suggest collecting then becoming a breeder? You know,
yeah, 100%. 100%, dude. It's just like when you ask me, like, what advice would I give to somebody who's just getting into this? You know, what species do you like? If you've only looked at Justin Kabelka videos and all you know are crazy ball pythons, you don't know reptiles. You just don't. You're not a reptile person. You're a ball python geek. And that's awesome. There's a spot for you, but it's also crowded by 10,000 other ball python geeks on Morph Market right now. You know, you're not special. You're just not special. You know, go to a reptile show, learn, you know, look at a fucking weird ass lizard and figure out what it is, you know, and figure out if that's cool. you know, and if you like that or not. You know, I've got my friend, my buddy Alex Myers. He breeds Chinese water dragons because he fucking loves them. And he's got like these huge elaborate enclosures. These are reptiles you can get for $25 that are just kind of like imported and assumed to be junk. And he's like, no, man, like people don't even get to see these as adults because they just don't do well because they don't know enough about them. But like, I want to see them kept, you know, in these great enclosures, and you know, you get this water feature and this and blah blah blah. And then he's like, look at pictures of my adults, and they're these gorgeous, you know, water dragons. I think people need to experience the keeping side of it before the breeding side of it. Let that come later. Figure out how to keep the damn thing. You know, I mean, dude, I've seen shipments of animals come in where, you know, there's like multiple snakes in a bag and they're breeding in the bag. You know, I've seen snakes gravid snakes get transported and lay eggs in the bag. It's not hard to do what we do. It's not. Right. Certain species are more challenging than others, but let's be real, dude. If there's nothing else to do, we're fucking. So I mean, like, that's just the reality. You know what I mean? So what we do is not challenging. We have to get, you know, when we're keeping these animals, we have to pay attention to certain things and how we maintain them. But we're putting animals together to breed, which they would do naturally. It's a natural biological endeavor for them to find a mate and procreate. You know, it's up to us to get parameters correct, but they're doing what they would be doing naturally. Figure out what species you like. You know, that's just it, dude. That's why I have so many fucking snakes, because I can't pick just one. You know, like you gotta enjoy keeping these animals, because at some point when you amass a collection, or even if you don't, you know, you're the one to maintain that animal. You're the one that's got to go in the enclosure and feed it and clean it and change that water bowl. And if you don't enjoy it, you know, if you are working with a species like an Amazon tree boa that wants to bite you every 5 seconds because you don't understand that animal, and you're like, you know what, I don't even want to take the time to enjoy this animal, then that's not the animal for you. You know, same thing. If you're working with Lamprepeltis, and don't want to get musked on, don't work with Lamprepeltis.
Oh,
like,
fucking God.
You know what I mean? Nerodia. I know people that work with just water snakes, and because they love water snakes. I think that's awesome. But if you don't want to get bitten on or bitten shit on and pissed on and musked on, don't work with the species. You know, but you have to enjoy keeping and interacting with that species before you go down this road of breeding. You know, because let's be real also, while the breeding aspect of this job is not necessarily difficult, rearing neonates, getting babies to hatch and then eat, depending on the species, is not easy. And sometimes not for the faint of heart. When you've got, you know, baby gray-banded king snakes that want to be eating little lizards, you know, how are you going to navigate that if you've never dealt with this before and all you think is a snake eats a mouse? You know what I mean? Like, you need to understand the animal before you start breeding them. You need to understand that full life cycle.
Amen. You know, it's funny that you brought up gray-banded king snakes, because I want one. I will never breed them. For that exact goddamn reason.
That's why I have Mexicanus, man. That's why I have Mexicanus. They're close enough.
See, okay, so real quick. So you brought up another great subject, and let's see if you agree with this one. For every difficult species, there's another species that looks similar enough that's easier to keep, in my opinion. For the most part, there's going to be a handful that break that rule, but if you do your research, you can find it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I also think with the amount, if you do the correct amount of research and, again, utilize the tool that social media really is and start reaching out to the people that also keep them and work with them in a more in-depth way, it's not difficult to maintain a lot of these species. You know, even for the ones that are challenging, where there are better, you know, variations. You know, like people want to keep scrubs and stuff like that. I tell them, look into carpet pythons. You know, even though they're not classified the same, you know, there are a lot of similarities, and at least it would get you in thinking in that mindset and understanding in that mindset. And then in the meantime, find somebody that's got scrubs. Ask if you can go to their place, or just ask their advice on care. You know, like, social media is a great tool. for that. But yeah, I think I would agree, and I would also back it up by also saying, like, it's not hard to do the research on those challenging species. You just need to take the initiative to do so.
Amen. Love it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm out. That was incredible. This whole live has been fucking amazing. Thank you, Jeremy. Like, thank you for taking time out of your crazy ass schedule to do this with us. This has been incredible.
Heck yeah. No, thank you guys for having me on, man. I've enjoyed it.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Sometime I'm gonna have to get my ass down there and see what you're working with, man, because that's
man, let me know.
Nothing warms my heart more than people that work with multiple species, because that's where my heart is. Like, fucking, like we talked in the beginning, it's just an addiction, man. You're just like, oh, what the fuck is that? How do I keep it? What do I do?
Yeah. What is it? And how many can I get today? Yeah.
And it's funny that this live happened the way that it did, because it reinforces my mentality. Like, I wanted to breed, and I was like kind of gun ho on it. And like over the last couple of years, I've been like in and out of it. Like, I bred corn snakes this last season or whatever, and I'm to a point where I just want to collect. Like, I don't want to breed. I don't care to breed at all. I don't get the satisfaction that people get out of it. And like we had touched on basically this entire life, like, I just want to work with animals. Like, when I go pick up the Amazon tree boa, like, I have zero intent of breeding it. Like, maybe in the future, maybe far in the future, but I want to work with it. I want to get that experience of working with the Amazon tree boas that eventually add a base into the collection. The long-term goal. I'm going to start low and then work my way up high.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely, man.
This whole live is just absolutely reinforced that, man. Like, 110%. Like, I am more excited now about being a collector than I was prior coming into this.
Heck yeah, dude.
And I hope more people can take your mentality into that too.
Yeah, man, I think it's important, man. Again, I just think about every experience that I had coming up in this industry, and a lot of the guys that had businesses, Kevin, I think about like Mike and Rich from Black Jungle Terrarium Supply, all these guys, they were like, they're just the insane hobbyists. They just love the animals that they were working with. And they were like, oh, I want to invest more time into this species. I want to get more of these animals. I want to learn as much as I can. And then it eventually grew into a business, but it all stemmed from an underlying passion and love for the animal, I mean, dude, Kevin will tell you straight up, he's a horrible businessman. He's just a glorified hobbyist that happened to make some money along the way and then made a lot of bad decisions, and just started buying more and more and more and more and more. But, it all stems from that place of desire and passion to work with these animals that we really do enjoy. That's the foundation of everything. There shouldn't be a push to breed. There just shouldn't be. Have the animal because you like it, and that there's still value in that, because you get to be, you can keep that to yourself and just be like, oh, this is what I do, like, at home. This is like my little hobby or whatever. Or you take that and then you can make a business still in this industry, but maybe your business is going to do educational shows. You go to schools, you go to summer programs, you go do this, you go do that. You can make money doing that. You can make some serious money doing that, and you're literally just taking your passion for these animals and sharing that. How is that a bad thing?
It's not.
It's not. Exactly. And especially when it's coming from a place of passion, from enjoyment of the species, not just like, it's not like you're taking 50 ball pythons and like, look, I bred this to this and I made this and blah, blah, blah. You're like, take a look at this normal corn snake. It's the coolest fucking thing ever. And guess what? Depending on where you are at, it could be in your backyard and they're awesome. Like, that's all it takes. That's all it takes to spark somebody to get interested in them. And then again, maybe become the person that cracks the code on breeding Boland's pythons. Like you don't know. You don't know. So there's 100% validity in the element of just being a keeper that enjoys keeping.
Fuck yeah. I'm gonna snip this entire part and like promote the shit out of it. I fucking love it, man. I can't hear it enough.
That's how we made our intro video. We like positive stuff like that, it really like picks us up.
Yeah, dude, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Like I'm gonna play with my fucking retic after this just because I enjoy my retic so damn much. Like,
hell yeah, dude. I envy that because I'm gonna be here sitting here trying to feed baby carpet pythons that want to be really stubborn, and I'm just gonna be slapping them with pinky mice. So I'll be thinking of you and being like, man, Levi's playing with his retic. That sounds like so much fun. Freaking eat this mouse. Like,
but see, even that, I get on the flip side, like I envy that because that satisfaction when that fucking snake takes that mouse, bro. Oh man.
Oh, it's great.
Cracking the code. Like I just got into a huge debate about this on a Facebook post. It was a really fun one though. It wasn't one of the toxic waste pools. A guy was complaining about his ball python eating, and I was like, look, try this, and this. And he was like, damn, that's a lot. I was like, yeah, but when that snake eats, that fucking feeling you're going to get for cracking that code and getting that damn snake to eat is second to none.
Yep.
Like I fucking do some stupid little celebration every time I get a stubborn ass snake to eat. Like my fucking boa this morning, like I lost my shit because she finally took a fucking rat. She went off food for whatever goddamn reason under the sun this time. Everything set up right. I was on the verge of just like banging my head up against something. She finally danced around the garage and I was all excited and shit. I was like, yes, finally. Now we can get back to normal. Now I can pull you out and enjoy you. I was all disappointed because Halloween's coming up and I wanted to pull her out. It's like the example thing. She was one of my biggest. She's one of my calmest, one of my prettiest normals that I've ever had in my entire life and seen. So I was like, oh, that would be super fucking cool to be able to pull her out on Halloween, have the kids come up on the driveway and, check her out. No, her bitch ass is off food. Can't do it. Now she's back on. I'm not going to take her out, but still.
Right. Yeah. Of course. That's how it works, though. That's how it works.
Yeah, they can never behave. My number one show snake prior to this, by the way, was a coastal. So push those coastals, man. Coastals are.
Heck yeah,
I feel like
dude.
they're still untapped. I feel like that's one that there could be some projects out of, and they're such an incredible species. The carpets in general are.
Yeah, they really are. I definitely do miss my coastals. Like I've got my one pair. I used to have probably like 10 or 12 of them. I definitely like them. That's for sure. But yeah, I think I tend to get drawn to the Brettles and the Jungles a little more, which is why they kind of became the focus. But yeah, I love a good coastal and I love a good West Papuan. So yeah.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, again, Jeremy, thank you so much for this live, man. It has been incredible. You brought so much to the table. Anybody that's still watching, thank you for sticking around with us. And I hope you guys post this one out because there's so much knowledge, like all promised every single time with Jeremy.
Yes, thank you. You're not following him, go follow him everywhere. Yeah.
And if you're not supporting US Arc, you have no business in this damn hobby. Period.
That's right. Do it. I will find you and force your finger to click that fucking follow button, you motherfuckers.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. That was good. Yeah. On that note, I'm going to take us out. All right, everybody. Thank you. Love y'all. Y'all have a good night. Peace.
Take care, y'all.
Thank you.